This guy jumps out in the middle of Chicago or wherever the hell it was with no suppressor, unloads like 18 rounds in this guy to the point that even Casey was like half asleep and was like, that seemed a bit excessive. Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts, Matt and Heiner.
What is up, my nerds?
Oh, that's weird.
I loved it.
Fabio Ortiz.
Better red than dead.
And Ian Anderson.
Some shit.
Some shit is happening. That's
always appropriate.
Do you ever find yourself wondering if you should spend the time, money, or both on a movie? Well, we're here to answer that question for you. Each week we put a movie on trial, discuss the facts, pass judgment, and let you know our verdict. We appreciate your help growing the podcast. Go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button. Tell a friend about us. Check out our website and subscribe to our email list for exclusive content and updates. And that website is whatsourverdict.com. You can also check out our merch there. Please go do that. Today we're reviewing No Remorse. It was released April 30th, 2021. It was written by Taylor Sheridan and Will Staples. It was directed by Stefano Sollima. Stars Michael B. Jordan, Jodie Turney-Smith, Jamie Bell, Guy Pearce, and Lauren London. John Kelly, a Navy SEAL, goes on a path to avenge his wife's murder, only to find himself inside of a larger conspiracy. We're going to dive deep, so if you haven't seen this movie and you want to avoid spoilers, go watch it now. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, we will give it a rating at the end of the podcast after we've discussed it in depth on a 0 to 5 scale, 0 being an absolute piece of shit, 5 being the greatest movie ever made. And yeah, so let's dive in, guys. We talked a little bit about spoiler free. You can also go check that out if you haven't seen this movie and want to see if you should watch it. But yeah, let's dive a little deep. Like I said in the spoiler free, guys, I was bored. Like, I feel like it just was so predictable. I didn't know what else to do with this movie. Like, as soon as Guy Pearce came on the screen, I'm like, oh, look, it's Guy Pearce playing another predictable, shitty bad guy. Seems to be all he does these days.
Yeah, spoiler, this movie's not getting a 5.
Oh, hell no.
No.
I mean, it's no She Dies Tomorrow, but it's certainly not a 5-level movie.
Hey, question on gun physics here. That murder scene where they popped out of the water, but right before and Michael B. Jordan shot
That's
the guy.
100% what I thought.
Yeah, can that even? I mean, it was close enough where I get the velocity of the bullet is still clearly traveling fast, but he was still under a decent amount of water. So to me,
maybe if the barrel was
happened?
like right at the edge of the water, because there's
otherwise, no, right?
plenty of research and videos to prove that bullets do not travel fast enough underwater.
Well, and if it's under enough water and it doesn't take much, you're going to mess up trajectory pretty bad.
Sure. And how long were they under there for?
And the dude just has like a red dot sight. Like how is he looking through that thing?
Well, and I was wondering too, like, look, I get it. The SEALs are trained to come out of water, and that's cool. And it was a fun scene to see him just like, oh, fuck, he's dead. And then his head pops up. But at the same time, like when they stood up, that wasn't a lot of water. And there was a lot of gear on those guys' back. So like you're hugging the ground to stay under the water, and you still have room to aim and fire your weapon? Or were you just like spray and pray one bullet and go, yeah, I'm a badass on accident?
I had to purposely not think about that too much because I'm like, what is that water? Like, where's it coming from? Because it looks like it's just a pool of water.
Yeah, I know. This just seems like they planted it here to try and have a cool death scene. I wanted to ask our resident gun individual over here that likes to count rounds, how'd this movie do from a realistic round standpoint?
The only time I counted is when he pulled out his Glock in his house. He fired 6 shots, and then he exchanged a bunch of shots, and I lost count. But I think that was accurate enough, right? Because his Glock can probably hold like 14 rounds, 15 rounds, somewhere around there. So he fires off 6 of them, and that means he's got another 8 or so. Yeah.
See, I was more disappointed with the Russian dude that didn't know how many he had.
Yeah.
And it you hear it not go off, and it's like, all right, dude, I feel like you should know. If you're this good, you should know that you're out.
Well, on that point, that's something that bothered me about this movie. Those 2 snipers that were in the other building when they got set up on the first one where the bad guy had the bomb strapped to him. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like this movie, a lot of people, the bad guys were like stormtroopers. They just kept missing. And I always have problems with movies like that where I think if these are super well-trained Russians and they're good at fighting, like I'm pretty sure more people are going to get shot. But I guess we got to leave the Americans triumphant. I don't know. I just always think about that a lot. I struggle with movies like that where the times that they need to hit someone, they do, but then the times that they never do, it never happens.
Those were the worst snipers in the history of snipers.
Exactly.
They're literally shooting down a hallway at one point. This dude's got a Barrett 50 cal shooting down a hallway and missing people. Like, how can you call yourself a sniper at that point? You know?
You know what I thought was hilarious about that scene is the cops show up and these snipers like just take out
Wasted. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the characters are like, like they're making it look like we're doing this. And then a bunch more Russians show up and they kill them all. And there's no like there's no issue there. So he's like, yeah, you guys are killing all these guys.
In their defense, you are doing what they think you're doing.
Yeah.
Well,
Stuff
in defense of these snipers, because I thought the same thing. I was like, how are they missing? Like, they hit the first guy and then they don't hit another shot for the rest of the thing. I don't think they were trying to hit him. I think they were trying to keep him pinned down in the building long enough for the cops to get there. Because here's the problem. If you get a guy that just snipes him with a 50 cal, now it doesn't look like the cops took out a bunch of Americans who got stuck in there trying to take out people. I think they were just trying to keep them in the building so that it looked like the cops showed up on a box.
Russia, man. They'll just sweep it under the rug.
They show up.
I don't know. I just see whoever's in charge of that, and the KGB would just be like, got Americans here. Just what's called what we want was a party. People died.
Well, and to be honest, like they made this film so obvious. Like when they were in the plane flying over there, I was like, don't go there. They're just gonna make it look like you were trying to kill somebody over there and fuck up this whole mission. Because like I had it figured, I had this thing pinned from the moment the dude got up off the dude's floor after killing his wife. I was like, this is like an exchange going on here. Like,
my other problem with that scene is a cop gets just sniped in the middle of this like town square, and then when reinforcements show up, they all just drive into the middle of the town square, right? So the information that they have is that there's a sniper shooting cops and no one takes cover. They just like drive it out in the middle of nowhere, like out in the open, and just hop out of their cars. And they're all just like standing around.
Well, that's actually how they fired that cop. He was a poor performing. That was a bad cop.
It's just Darwinism in Russia.
Yeah, in Russia, there's no in between. You're either good or you're dead.
That's funny.
Based off the movies I've seen, it seems pretty accurate.
And not to mention that they never actually turn around and look at the building that sniper's in. They just keep looking at the main building where the Americans are.
Yeah,
it's gone down in the back from a building behind them, and they're just like, "Oh, well, it must have been the Americans. That's why."
That's probably fine.
Yeah, had to have come from this building.
What do you guys think? This whole scene just frustrated me. What do you think's more unrealistic, the stuff that we talked about, or the fact that he, after being shot, sets off a bomb and is able to completely change uniforms?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was like, that boy changed real quick.
Yeah, because it's not just like he puts on a vest; it's like the whole uniform thing that he's in, and gas mask and all that jazz.
Yeah, and the other part of that was like, I know it's confusing, like a bomb went off, but like no one's questioning this dude. Just walks out of the building, gets in an ambulance, and just drives away.
Well, that part, everyone's all of a sudden concerned about everyone else like getting out, and they're just picking people up and like making sure it's like no one's firing any more shots. Like, oh, they all must be dead. Like, let's not fire shots anymore. Our friends are alive. I'm like, oh, we're done. Like, it's over. I guess that's how you end a firefight in Russia. Just if a bomb goes
with
off,
a bang,
immediately. Yeah, it's over. Like,
everybody died.
So going back to the airplane thing, one thing that I really do appreciate though is when the Russian jet comes up and he's like, yeah, you need to divert to this airport, and he's like, oh, you're all jarbled, can you repeat that? He does not repeat that. He just falls back, launches a missile at him.
And then you got John yelling, take evasive maneuvers. And I'm like, they're pilots. I think they know what they're doing.
Also, you're in like a 747.
That's what I was thinking. You're in a commercial airliner. Evasive maneuvers look very stupid.
Launch the flares. Like, what do you think? What do you think we're working with here, man?
Air Force One? Are you shitting me right now?
Another thing with that, when that plane hit the water like that, I feel like that plane would have just been obliterated, or at least like when it hit the water, it would have just shredded into pieces more so than the way it did.
Oh, that was a beautiful Hudson River landing.
Yeah.
You know?
Like this dude's left wings on fire and they hit it and skidded and no one died from impact. Well, maybe the pilots did. But,
I was going to say, at least the pilots did. And there was at least one other random body that I was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Okay, so that was a body.
Floating. Yeah, there were like 3 bodies in the plane.
Because I saw
And
the
I was
one
like-
hanging from the thing. I was like,
I
is that
thought
a
they just
person?
kept the seatbelt on because they were rolling or something. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I just was like, I was very confused by the bodies that were there because the one you can tell was at least one of the pilots.
Mhm.
The other 2, I'm like, why are there 3 bodies and who's missing? Because the whole team was alive.
Yeah.
So I was like, did they have like some secret third pilot? Was that like the flight attendant that was bringing them drinks down the aisle later? I don't understand the third
I'm
body.
pretty sure they would have almost been like all dead from the sheer impact. Like I don't think that would have gone very differently.
So they were flying from Germany, right?
I think so.
I was really curious what body of water from Germany to Russia guys landed in.
I didn't
a fair
even,
point.
I didn't even
Didn't it
think
say
about
like the
that.
Baltic Sea or something?
But they would have to be going pretty south Russia or no, the Baltic Sea. I guess that's more north. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go look at a map. But
Yeah,
when
what
that
part of
happened, I was
Russia
like,
were they going
Yeah,
to?
I don't know Russian geography. All my Russians out there, like, tell us where it is.
Because I feel like they
I have
were.
no idea. It
would
had
be-
to have been the Baltic Sea because it borders Germany and Russia, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe on the way. Yeah, it depends on where they were going. Because, like, if they were going to like St. Petersburg, you could buy that was the Baltic Sea.
Yeah, it's close enough.
But if they were going to like Moscow, there's no reason to go that way.
Well, in the movie's defense, we had no idea where they were, so they could have been going
Where did it tell them to divert to? Where were they going?
Mursinsk or something.
Yeah, they would have had to have
Listening?
been going to St. Petersburg. That's the only.
Unless they were going to, I don't know, dude. I have no idea, man.
It's probably not a big enough plot hole to warrant our.
No, that's hilarious. So that's a very valid point.
Yeah, way to throw a wrench in my already low opinion of this movie.
If there wasn't enough already.
Yeah.
The more that we talk, the more I feel like I should have said not impressed.
Yeah. Well, it just didn't.
Yeah.
So many things didn't make sense, and then the things that they did that did make sense, like they made it so obvious what was going to happen that it just wasn't fun. Like I was just like, come on, man! Like you got this.
Yeah. The whole Ritter thing, right? Like the whole Ritter being a dick thing. I'm like, okay, like we know he's not the bad guy. We know he didn't sell you out. So like when they get to that point, he's like, I didn't sell you out. I'm like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It's it's obviously the guy that we're least expecting, right?
I love
Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
if you haven't already figured out it's Guy Pearce when they're in that meeting and John's supervisor flat out says like, yeah, he's not fit for this, not going to be a good thing. And Guy Pearce is like, I think you're the perfect person to go. Just like, okay.
Complete
So that's-
disregard
that's
for
my
military policy. He's like, send him in. And but we haven't talked about the whole like felony thing to like what?
Yeah,
Why?
this dude is a straight up murderer. And I'm like, what is he even doing outside of a jail cell?
So I do know that in the books at some point, and I don't know the sequence because I haven't read all of them, but especially not the John Clark novels, but like the sequence of events is Jack Ryan does become the president of the United States at some point, and he pardons John Clark of some murders. And that's how Rainbow Six gets built, because John Clark is the leader of Rainbow Six. That's what the whole
Rainbow. Got it.
Yeah, that's where the mid-credit scene came from, is he wants to build Rainbow, which obviously becomes Rainbow Six, and he's the leader of that. But it was just odd to me, like that was his excuse in Russia. Well, I'm just a felon. Yeah, but you're still a former soldier, asshole, and they're still going to tie you to this. And
you're still American.
Yeah, exactly. You're still an American. Like,
okay, so I wasn't the only one lost on that train of logic.
No.
I'm like, I still think if Russians really wanted to pin this on the United States with your body, they could.
But miraculously, he gets away, dressed like a Russian operative, I guess.
But even leading into that before, though, with the reason he went to find that Russian to get the name, he being Michael B. Jordan's character, before that they had that scene with Ritter and someone else where they wouldn't give the intel and said, hey, it's basically done, like we're sweeping this under the rug, it's going to be a file somewhere in a private server. If the secretary wanted this to all go down, I just don't understand why he didn't let the information get out to Michael B. Jordan's team and let them go to Russia anyways and do what they were going to do. I don't get why it had to be him being a felon and him going into it that way when he could have just sent that team to Russia anyways.
Yeah, but he needed it to look like it was AWOL.
And I think they didn't know who they were going after until Michael B. Jordan goes and burns the Russian diplomat or whoever. Which,
okay, that was cool.
Yeah,
it was cool. Except
Very
for,
unrealistic, though.
I thought it was funny that this guy, so it makes it look like the car's blocked in and you can't get out. And then Michael B. Jordan just waltzes up, pulls the door open, and sits inside. He's like, why didn't this guy run out the door like when this all started happening? I don't know. Just
Well, and even
Kind of
worse, like
fire.
you see the windows like cracking because of the heat, which is very realistic. It would have, but the inside of that car would have been a fucking oven. Like,
oh yeah.
it's metal, it's on fire. You're not just sitting in there all uncomfortable, and neither one of them were sweating. The one dude's got a bullet in his chest, and Michael B. Jordan's sitting in a car full of fire, surrounded by fire. You would be hot. I mean, at the very least, make the dude sweaty.
Or burn his hand when he grabs the door or something.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, that part. He just walks up to, opens the door. I'm like, okay, this is easier than I thought that would be.
Well, then he gets out, and like the fire doesn't touch him.
I'm military.
Yeah, gets up
I'm
with his hand
military. I'm like, you just killed a Russian diplomat. I don't think it matters who or what you are. Like,
But if the senator wanted a reason to go to war, I think that would be a pretty good one.
Yeah.
yeah,
Just kill a diplomat in America. Oh man, this
That's why
movie.
it didn't make sense to me at all. Yeah, because that's a perfect reason. Like, what more do you need to have? If that happened in real life right now, shiz could be going down.
If just some rogue Russian operative killed an American diplomat, I think there would be very, very extreme responses to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do. And if we did the same, dude, we'd be looking at like World War III in some senses. I mean, I will say this about the movie. There's the secretary, his response at the end of why they were doing this, the whole America basically needs something to like unify or to hate collectively together, and this is why we're doing that.
We hate ourselves collectively. That's what we've got going for us right now. We don't need Russians.
So good point. But I thought that was an interesting way to look at things, because I could see a government rationalizing a way to like rally the troops in that regard to stop the violence at home, take it somewhere else, and create an economic superpower and all those things. So I did like that moral thought dilemma a little bit. That was interesting to me.
Movies like this make me really wonder, like, how far-fetched that is. Right?
Yeah,
like, is there
exactly.
like a Secretary of Defense at some point in the history of the U.S. that's like tried to start a war, for like economical, what, like how far up the chain could this go?
Sounds like you're speaking from experience, Javier.
No, I'm like really curious. I legitimately am. Like, is Hillary Clinton like a warmongering strategist? Like, is she? Who knows? Maybe she is.
But
or
this
is
is
she just
literally
some
what-
old lady,
Many people think that's what the Iraqi war in Afghanistan was all about. It was just the money profiteering, basically.
Yeah, is George Bush a stupid Texan, or is he one of the smartest men alive?
The Iraqi war in Afghanistan.
No, sorry, Iraq and I thought I said and. Come on, give me some credit.
That was funny.
Just clarifying.
I know those are.
I'm
two
all about
different
geography
countries.
right now.
And the SEALs came in from the Baltic Sea on that one too.
I mean, did we really even kill Osama bin Laden? Who knows?
Oh, Jesus. But when you're talking about war, I mean, it's interesting to think about the Vietnam War going through three different
That too.
presidents. That one was definitely a more political thing than it was about, what they said it was about. The other thing to think is, and this is all conspiracy theory, but I'm on the flip side. I don't think we're in a place where people are creating wars to generate unity in the country. I think we're fighting a war with politicians where they're trying to separate us. That's my honest opinion. We're easier to control when we're not banded together. And right now, the country is very, very much wildly split in a lot of areas, and it allows for serious legislation to happen when we're not even paying attention, because we're so busy paying attention to what the media is putting out and the crazy shit that's going on against each other as human beings, that we let slide what the politicians are doing. And that shit's shady as hell. So I think right now, if you want to say that there's a war being generated, it's not with another country. I think the threat of war with other countries is just another piece of fear and then we use that fear at home against ourselves, and then the politicians do whatever the fuck they want to do. That's my personal opinion.
I said JJ for president.
Oh God, nobody wants that. But
I listened to this comedian. I forgot his name, but he was like, I don't get people who don't believe in conspiracy theories. He's like, I get not believing in all of them or even most of them, but you're over here thinking that the government is batting 1,000 and telling us the whole truth.
look,
Well said.
when one of our presidents has like every person that he doesn't trust on his cabinet wiretapped, and then like people break into a building and it shuts down a president, like, you know, at that point in the 70s that this shit was shady, and it's not gotten any better. We're just not too smart to realize, oh, he resigned, everything's better. Fuck off. They're all the same.
Just pawns going after kings.
Okay. There are a couple of parts of this movie that I really enjoyed, though, like the prison scene where he's arrested and the guard's like, get up. And he's like, nah, I'm not moving. And he knows a fight is coming. So he like obviously takes off his shirt because that's the first move. And then he like
on the water
to make the floor slippery.
Yeah,
to make him slippery.
Can't grab a hold
I
of
didn't
him.
really see any slipping, but it sure looked cool on his body.
Yeah, a bunch of the rushing in, the guards rushing in were slipping on the floor. But I feel like if anything, it would be most slippery for him because he's barefoot, isn't he? Or like
No,
close
he had
to
those
it.
little sneakers.
Slippers.
Oh,
Prison slippers.
Yeah, the prison slippers.
I thought combat boots would be fine in a little bit of water. Like, I just looked cool. I was like, all right, I turn the faucet on too when I fight next time.
Close the door before I start snapping necks.
I just love that he did that shit, and they like he's gearing up for a fight. He wraps his hand up and he clogs the sink, and then they walk in with like riot shields.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, your little white t-shirt's not going to do anything against the riot shields.
Yeah,
I mean, good on them, smart. You're taking on a Navy SEAL. You probably want a few riot shields.
So with that scene, was it planned to beat him up and kill him, but then the marshals just happened to show up at the same time, or they were?
I think that guard was supposed to take him somewhere, and prisoners were supposed to kill him.
yeah.
Because they're talking about how he's in like the most Russian prison in the States or something. And he's like, oh, is that just happenstance? Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we fill our prisons full of Russian mobsters.
My big problem with movies like this is I feel like during the screenplay part, they're like, we've got this fun beginning, fun middle, and we'll figure out the ending later.
Yeah.
Or like, I always feel like with these movies, they have 20 minutes of like trying to wrap this movie up and they have no idea what to do.
Well, and I hate it too because like you have a blueprint. Like, look, Tom Clancy's books are good. Like if you've read them, they're interesting. There's a lot of intrigue to them. They're mysterious. And I hate more than anything. Like, look, if you're gonna base a movie off of a book that's as good as Tom Clancy's books can be and are, why make a bunch of changes? Like I get that you can't translate it 100%, but why completely rewrite the story? Like I realize you have to adapt it and you got to make changes, but you're completely rewriting a story that's probably really good to try to make it more interesting. Stop doing that shit. Like,
Yeah. Are you a better writer than Tom Clancy?
yeah, no.
Evidently not.
No, Taylor Sheridan and Will Staples are not better writers than Tom Clancy, as we have found. I get so frustrated by that and like I knew it was going to be a rough one to watch when like the first 10 minutes have 4 different fucking title cards at the bottom to tell me where I'm at and when I'm at.
Oh yeah.
I fucking hate that shit. Like I get, you have to have some exposition in some places to let me know we're in Afghanistan or we're in Iraq or wherever it was at the beginning of the movie, and then you
killing Iraqis in Afghanistan.
Yeah, exactly. But then we're in DC. And then we're in fucking, what was it, Georgia or like, I don't know. We went to like 6 different places in 20 minutes. I'm like, Jesus,
dude,
relax a little.
And to your point about the predictability, even like the cinematography made scenes super predictable. Like when that guy's taking the trash out, right? And it pans out. I was like, dude, this guy's going to get hit by a car.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then he gets hit by a car. And I'm like, why would you change the camera angle like that to like show me? Like you're trying to hide the fact that he's going to get hit by a car. But because you did that, I know exactly what's about to happen. Right. So there's nothing creative or like surprising, even with those little things like that.
Pretty sweet scene though. I mean, I can't think of a time.
Dude, you watch him get all the way over. It's not like collision, we pan away to someone shocking shocked face would come back to him on the ground. We watched this dude get run over. Those are nice shocks on that van.
Like, I would have rather have led with the next one we see where the guy's on the phone fighting with his girlfriend because he went out drinking with his buddies. And then, but don't cut to the back of the van. Because as soon as they cut to the back of the van, I was like, oh, somebody's going to jump out and shoot his ass. Yep. Just have him be sitting there fighting with his girlfriend, and you keep the same camera angle, but the dude takes bullets. And you're like, whoa. What the fuck's going on?
Well,
you know what I mean?
How did that van get out of traffic? Like, they hop out, like, boom, 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 and he gets back in, and then what?
Well, so this is the problem that I had twice, too. So that weapon, that time they get out of this van and they're shooting, and they don't have any kind of suppressor on it. You just watch the whole opening sequence with, like, everybody's got some badass suppressor on the weapon. This guy jumps out in the middle of fucking Chicago or wherever the hell it was with no suppressor, unloads like 18 rounds in this guy to the point that even Casey was like half asleep and was like, that seemed a bit excessive. and then you see at the end when they go into Russia, they're infiltrating this building, and I'm like, where are the suppressors that they had in the beginning? Wouldn't this be a more apt time to have suppressors? I mean, I'm just saying.
Maybe, like, depending on where they were, but if it's like Detroit, maybe the people there are just like, oh, the Russians are back. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you're in the middle of war-torn Syria at the beginning, and you have suppressors.
Yeah,
you're fair. Downtown fucking Chicago or Detroit or Atlanta, no suppressors. Downtown fucking Russia, wherever the hell they were in Russia, no suppressors. We'll just make as much noise as possible.
In the beginning of the movie, after their little mission and they're flying away, right? I'm like, I've seen Black Hawk Down. You guys are way too relaxed in this helicopter for where you are, you know?
I thought they were going to get shot down because that's what it felt like. I was like, the way they were showing the helicopter, I was like, oh, they're going down. Like, something's going to happen right now. But obviously they didn't.
Very disappointed. I just feel like it could have been a cool movie. And I feel like I've said this a lot over the last few movies that we reviewed is like, you watch it and you're like, the bones are so good. And what they built on the foundation of this movie just wasn't, it was just boring. It was predictable and boring. And,
another thing I thought was funny, this movie is rated R for violence, but there's multiple points in this movie where a really big explosion happens. Like there's a part where they were fighting a guy that brought out an RPG, and like three of them were standing in a hallway, and the RPG bounced off the wall and then exploded, and then everyone fell down, and everyone still had their limbs on and everything. It's like, I'm pretty sure there would be some serious blood and limbs all over this place because that went off in close quarters. And then there was bombs later that happened. I was like, I guess these bombs maybe just pop eardrums and everyone else just stays intact. But I thought that was interesting because it just didn't seem as in my face as I would have expected it to be.
Guys, next movie, we need to get like an explosives expert on here because I have to know what C4 does. That dude had like 9 blocks of C4 on him, and he like blew out a couple of windows. Like
it wasn't even that you thought he would have leveled the building.
Yeah, I totally thought that like whole floor was like coming down type of thing.
Well, especially where he was at, because he was pretty close. Like he just hucks it across the room, right? He's in the back of the room where there's not going to be any like area for that explosion to go. Like I would think that, and if anybody's going to die, he would probably be the one.
Unless Russians build walls differently than we do, because man, he was ducking behind walls left and right from explosions, and he was fine.
Yeah, I mean, he never, there was one where he, like, huffed a little dirt off of himself and acted like he was hurt. But I'm like, for the most part, like, he came out pretty unscathed with these explosions. And I'm with you, like, where he's talking to this dude in the chair with the freaking bomb, like the C4 strapped to him. I'm like, why are you so close to this man? Like, leave. Like, this guy's made up his mind. Leave the room.
He was probably only, honestly, like 30 feet away. And for the amount of C4 he had, I'm pretty sure he would have died.
So what was the point? Sorry, maybe I missed something, but what was the point of him killing himself like that?
Again, I think the idea is like a bunch of the Americans die. They're there in that building and they get blamed for it. So the American gets blamed for killing people on Russian soil.
But was this guy, because he said he worked for the CIA, right?
Yeah, but he was Russian. He was a Russian national. Everybody that broke in, it's the same reason that the guy let the other guy shoot him in John's bedroom. Like he's like, I'm ready. And he shoots him in the head. They were Russian nationals that were working for the CIA.
But he like monologues about how they set the situation up, and he kind of makes it sound like doesn't like fully agree with it, or is he like a true believer and he's sacrificing himself to make this happen? Like I didn't get that part.
Yeah, he was sacrificing himself for the betterment of America because he believed in this whole secretary guy's plan of if we create a war between Russia and America, then now all of a sudden we have money.
Gotcha.
And we're unified. So
because the impression that I got was he kind of made it sound like they've done this to us kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I don't think he fully was like on board, but he took orders and he was a different breed than maybe John. Though I think they tried to show that in a couple of the orders where he gets and he wants to like do something different until he goes rogue, completely rogue, the Russian guy.
Talking up to wasn't very captivating for me.
That guy though, Brett Gelman, that Russian dude, is like one of my favorite B-list actors.
Yeah.
Because he was in Prison Break and he's in like John Wick 2 and he's just always the Russian dude, just your token Russian dude. I like him. I really enjoy seeing him. So when I saw him in this movie, like even though the movie wasn't awesome, I liked the scenes that he was in. Like that scene where he's like monologuing and he knows that John's there, right? So he calls out to him and stuff. I'm like, what a cool scene.
Yeah, there were some cool parts to the movie. It just overall was very disappointing and pretty boring.
Honestly, the ocean thing on the way to Russia is really messing with me, Ian.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have to go watch just to find that name of where they went.
Yeah.
Curious to see.
Yeah, to see if they show it. Because they just don't give you enough information to know which way they would be going.
Yeah.
While you guys are talking, I'm going to try to look up a plot line to see if I can get the name of where they were going. So you keep doing your thing. Hold on.
I hate to admit it, but I'm kind of with Mattson at this point. I don't know what else to really talk about with this movie.
I don't have anything else to really say.
Yeah, I think we've kind of tapped this one out.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and rate it. Again, we're going to rate from a 0 to 5 scale, 0 being absolute terrible movie, worst out there, 5 being fabulous movie. Yeah. Ian, why don't you start us off, buddy?
Oh,
Ian, this is a big one.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I was kind of like in that it's an average movie, and then we talked about it more and started realizing just how many plot holes and like not possibles, and like you talk about having a suspension of disbelief, but that only takes you so far. Man, I want to say, I'm trying to think of other ones that I've rated, because I would put this pretty close to like Olympus Has Fallen or the White House Down almost. So I'm going to say a 2. And the only reason it's a 2 and not a 1.5 was there were some semi-cool action scenes. But to be fair, even some of the action scenes, like having snipers shoot at you for 10 minutes is not that engaging of an action scene. So it wasn't. Yeah, it's not a great movie. You can watch it if you don't have anything else and you want something new, but there's better stuff out there, and I'm not going to watch this one again. And if I do, it's just going to be to find out the name of the Russian city they were heading to.
I feel like
Murmansk.
Does that make sense?
So it makes sense because Murmansk is they have to not only the Baltic Sea, but they have to cross like the White Sea or something. So they technically would have to, from Germany, cross 2 bodies of water.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, at least they got that right.
Yeah, at least they did that one. Everything else was a shit show, but they sure got the body of water right. Yeah, this movie to me is a 1.5 movie. Like I gave 1.5, I think, to Mortal Kombat 2, and to me it felt very similar to that. Like where there were so many parts of it that I wanted to like, but I just couldn't because they just didn't do it well. It just wasn't like it was a gorgeous movie. Like it looked great. Like, the visuals were really cool. Some of the scenes I really wanted to be more into, but there was really no tension. There was no, even the parts, like, I think the most tense part and the part that really got to me the most was the fact that they killed this dude's wife while she was pregnant. Like, that made me uncomfortable, that situation. But other than that, like, it wasn't because, that made me uncomfortable. It wasn't like there was tension. There was no real stakes to me for this movie. It was boring. It was predictable. I knew where it was going. The visuals were cool. Some of the action scenes were pretty entertaining, but not because they were well done, just because it's, big guns and explosions and people getting run over by buses and vans. It just wasn't, but it wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything we hadn't seen already. Yeah. So I think that's just for me, like there was nothing that kept me intrigued. And I was kind of glad that I was watching it, was really tired, because I think if I'd have been awake, I'd be even harsher on this movie. So yeah, 1.5 for me. I won't watch this movie again. And I'm sad because I won't watch anything else that they do, because they're obviously trying to build this world on Amazon with the Tom Clancy series. So Mattson.
Yeah, I think Jay just said it best. I'm swinging in with a 1.5. For me, I won't watch anything else that they put out for this unless Rotten Tomatoes and the viewership critics come out and say this is amazing. And even then, I'll still have a grain of skepticism. This movie was not creative. It was generic. It was dry. It was boring, predictable. All those words. There wasn't really any suspense. I wasn't really endeared to any of the characters. And so for me, there's worse. Like there's action movies out there, like White House Down. We even said it. Or what's the other one that both of those movies, Olympus Has Fallen. I'd rather go see those movies because at least they're more outlandish to me. And I don't know, like I like Gerard Butler more than Michael B. Jordan in this movie. And White House Down is a little more quirky and aloof, but at least it owns it. Where this movie, I'm not really sure what it owned, except that explosions don't kill people. And that's all I really took away from this movie. And that's kind of sad. So yeah, it's a 1.5. Go watch a different action movie. And there's a lot of poor action movies out there that I still think you'd be more entertained than this one. So never watching it again. I'm with JJ. I will not be watching these in the future unless someone multiple people come and say like, you need to see this one, but I don't really have faith in it.
Yeah, you should definitely watch the Jack Ryan series though if you haven't.
Yeah, I've heard that is amazing,
unreal good. But this movie sucked. Javier, bring us home.
Okay. So I think I'm going to go with Ian on this one. I'm going to give it a 2. There are some fun scenes. Like I had fun watching it until the last 20 minutes for the most part. This is one of those movies where you just have to like not care, right? You just have to like not even not overanalyze it. You just can't analyze it, right? You just have to sit in front of the screen and just watch. If you can do that, it's like a pretty okay movie. Like there's some fun fight scenes, like Michael B. Jordan, like in his house with like his little handgun. He's like flashing the flashlight to screw up their night vision. Like there's little things like that are fun and cool. Otherwise, everything we talked about, it's just a shit show, right? Like it's almost insulting to your intelligence to think that they're being clever with how they're setting things up. So anyway, I'm going to give this 2. I'm not going to watch this again. There's just no reason to watch this again, right? Like anything that it does well, other movies do way better. And everything that it does bad, like in its defense, other movies do way worse. So, it's a good kind of slightly under middle of the road movie.
Well, there you have it. 1.5, 2, and 2.
There's a t-shirt right there. Slightly under the road or whatever you just said.
Slightly under middle of the road. Like what is our famous middle of the road movie again?
You're talking about The Town?
The Town.
Oh
yeah, so
my
it's like
gosh.
a little bit worse than The Town.
Don't even do that. That is so
This is a compliment. I would watch The Town before I would watch this movie again.
The disrespect that you just put on that movie's name is just
I mean, just to be fair and to get my
I'm on your guys' side. I'm saying The Town is a better movie than this.
No, I know, but it's the same thing as that. I might watch Warrior before I'd watch this movie.
Okay, now you're just being hurtful.
Being honest.
Man.
We haven't thrown shade on those 2 movies. It's been many, many months, man. Going back to the archives on that.
Yeah, if you haven't listened, you should go listen to those episodes. It's a lot of fun. We
just don't watch The Town. Just listen to the podcast.
Or Warrior, for that matter.
What are you talking about? Warrior's awesome.
Yeah, sure.
There's no chick who gets kidnapped and is like, I love you. Like bullshit like that.
Still think that stuff could happen.
Mattson, there's someone out there for you, man. You don't have to kidnap people.
No, see, because they let deserters fight in a fight before they take them into custody once they realize who they are.
Gotta give the people a show, man.
Yeah, dude.
Gotta let him have his own brother dislocate his arm before they take him to prison. Well, with that, next week we will be reviewing, and to be honest, guys, I'm gonna say this, but I'm getting kind of tired of action movies, especially revenge action movies. But it's about all that's coming out for the next couple of weeks. But so we have May 7th, the movie's releasing called Wrath of Man, starring Jason Statham. So we'll be reviewing that.
Oh man,
I did just
I've seen the preview for that. I'm not looking that forward to that. I got to be honest.
Yeah, there's nothing else coming out though.
I just know I'm going to be disappointed. I got to lower.
Yeah,
that's in fact, Javier. We have to watch that together because it will be better watching it with you. I just know it,
dude. I'm a sucker for shitty action movies.
Here's the thing, though, is like I have interesting expectations because it's a Guy Ritchie film, and I either love his films or I hate his films. And the last one that he did, The Gentleman, was one of my favorite films. Like, I love that movie.
Oh, with Matthew McConaughey, that one.
Yeah, and it looks like in a very similar vein in that way with some of the action. I mean, and Guy Ritchie's films are all very similar in the way that he films the action and things like that. So I have some hopes for that. but I'm just kind of tired of the genre at this
Oh, he
point.
does Sherlock Holmes. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did King Arthur. That is a great movie. We need to do King Arthur.
So yeah, Wrath of Man. Be watching for that one. That'll be next week. Yeah. With that, Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us.
Yeah, check out our upcoming schedule on whatsourverdict.com. If you're as awesome as one of our listeners, Alec, who drops us a comment on the weekly, would love to hear from you. We will chime back. Check us out on social media on Facebook and Instagram, as well as our spoiler freeze on YouTube. We are excited to engage with you, and our merch store continues to have wonderfully cool things. And if you haven't noticed, we've changed our logo as well. Let us know what you think, and we'd love to hear from you. So chime in.
Yep, cool. So there's our verdict. And with that, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye now.
Cinemagic out.
Mm-hmm.